If you want the world to see you as put together, don't ever tell them about your bathroom. That's what I've learned. Because the truth is, that's where everything falls apart. And if you're me, Ella Hartley, 23 years old, 6 feet of bad posture and too much second guessing, you know the bathroom isn't just where you shower or brush your teeth. It's where you hide. It's where you go when you can't bear the noise in your own head. It's the only room with a lock in this rambling, mismatched house. And yet somehow today I forgot to use it. That's so like me. So typical. So not ready. I should back up. If you clicked on this story, you probably want something juicy, something a little bit scandalous, right? You want to know why a woman like me ended up in a situation like this, sitting cross-legged on a cold tile floor, mascara halfway down my cheeks, just praying that nobody in this house has reason to turn the doorknob. Spoiler alert, they do. Have a stepbrother. Jake. And if you're rolling your eyes, believe me, so did I at first. But nothing about us is what you think. No forbidden romance, no secrets that make you blush. Just a raw, relentless kind of family that gets under your skin and stays there, whether you're ready or not. So, let's set the scene. I'm perched on the edge of the bathtub, clutching my phone so hard my knuckles hurt. I'm not crying. No, that was 10 minutes ago. Now I'm just waiting for the puffy eyes to recede, for my breathing to steady, for that hollow ache in my chest to decide if it wants to be anger or just plain tiredness. Steam curls from the running tap. The mirror is fogged, softening my reflection into something I can almost recognize. Today was one of those days. The kind where nothing fits. Not your clothes, not your skin, not even the story you tell about. Yourself. You know those days? The kind where you hold it together just long enough to make it home, then unravel the second you close the bathroom door behind you. I kick off my shoes, hug my knees, and try to pretend the world outside is miles away. But this house, this patched-together, it'll-do-for-now rental on the edge of town, doesn't let you forget you're never alone. Not with Jake around. Jake, my stepbrother, is the only other person who lives here. We share groceries, chores, and that silent agreement that siblings, even the step kind, never actually talk about feelings. He's 2 years older, a head taller, and, if I'm being honest, way better at pretending everything is fine. But even Jake slips up. The thing is, I never lock the bathroom door. Why would I? Jake knocks, always. He's weirdly polite for someone who's seen me scream at spiders and walk around in the world's ugliest pajamas. But today, I guess, neither of us was at our best. The door swings open with a bang that rattles the towel hook. I jerk upright, phone clattering to the floor. In the steamy haze, Jake freezes, 1 foot inside, his hand still gripping the knob. He looks as startled as I feel. Ella? Oh, crap, sorry. He starts to backpedal, but it's too late. He's seen me, red-eyed, hair a mess, every insecurity spotlighted by the harsh bathroom light. For a second, we just stare at each other. Time stops. Awkwardness stretches thin as old elastic. I wish I could vanish. I wish I could say something. Funny, brush it off, tell him it's just allergies. But I can't, because for the first time in forever, I feel seen. Not the Instagram version of me, not the cheerful Ella who makes everyone coffee and keeps the peace. Just me, raw and not ready. Jake looks away first. His ears go pink, which is almost comforting. He's embarrassed, too. I didn't know. You were in here. I'm really sorry, he mutters, already halfway back into the hall. It's fine, I manage, my voice tiny and sharp at the edges. He hesitates, one hand still on the doorknob. Then softer. Are you okay? I want to lie. I want to tell him I'm fine, slam the door shut, never speak of this again. But something in his voice, the genuine worry, the way he almost whispers, cracks me open. I'm just tired, I say, hating how shaky I sound. He nods but doesn't move. For a second, I think he's going to push, ask me what's wrong, force a heart-to-heart right here in the world's least magical bathroom. But he just steps back, closing the door gently behind him. I'll be outside. If you need anything, he says. Then the door clicks shut and I'm alone again, with the echo of his concern bouncing around the tiles. For a minute, I just sit there. The adrenaline drains away, leaving me empty, almost peaceful. I hear Jake's footsteps pause. Outside, just a shadow under the door. He doesn't knock again, he just waits. That's the thing about Jake. He never pushes, he just waits for me to be ready. And that somehow makes it worse and better all at once. I wipe my face with a towel, splash cold water over my cheeks, and force myself to stand up. The mirror clears just enough to show the real me. Not perfect, not happy, but not alone either. And I realize with a jolt that maybe this is what family really means. Being there, even when it's messy, even when you're not ready. When I finally open the bathroom door, Jake is sitting in the hallway, legs stretched out, staring at the wall like it holds the answers to all of life's questions. He doesn't look up right away. I don't say anything either, but for the first time all day, I don't feel like hiding. Maybe tomorrow I'll lock the door. Maybe I won't have to. You know how sometimes a single moment hangs over your whole day, refusing to let go? That's what it felt like, stepping out of the bathroom and into the narrow hallway, where the tiles felt colder than ever and my heart thudded, not with embarrassment anymore, but with something heavier, like a secret wanting to spill out. Jake was still there, sitting cross-legged in the hallway, phone untouched in his lap. He didn't say anything when I opened the door. He just offered a tight, quiet smile. It felt awkward, almost staged, like two actors waiting for their lines. Except this was real life, and I'd already forgotten my script. I'll, make some tea, Jake said after a pause, scrambling to his feet with all the grace of someone who's spent their life pretending to know what to do. He disappeared into the kitchen, and I trailed behind, suddenly hyper-aware of the way my footsteps echoed on the old wood floor. The kitchen was warm and full of morning light, the kind that tries too hard to be cheerful. Jake busied himself at the kettle, rattling mugs and banging spoons, as if volume alone could fill the silence. I hovered by the door, unsure what to do with my hands, or my face, or my entire existence. It's wild how a stupid moment, a fluke, of bad timing, can change the whole balance of your day. So, big plans today? Jake asked, not meeting my eyes as he measured out tea leaves with the seriousness of a surgeon. Just work, I replied too fast. I wasn't going to admit I'd called in sick. Not yet. Not when I barely knew how to explain why. A kettle's shriek saved us both, and Jake poured the water, letting the steam fog his glasses before pushing them up his nose. He slid a mug toward me across the counter. Here, extra honey. Like, you like it. The small gesture pricked something inside me. It was easier to pretend nothing had happened, but the question lingered between us, thick as steam. Are you okay? I sipped my tea. It burned. Maybe that was the point. Jake sat across from me, fidgeting with the handle of his mug. I could tell he wanted to say something, but didn't know how to start. Neither did I. So, rough night? He finally ventured. Shrugged, picking at the frayed sleeve of my sweater. Just tired. The lie tasted stale. I looked up and found him watching me, concern knitted between his brows. You don't have to talk, he said quietly. But if you want to, I'm not going anywhere. His words sent a pulse of gratitude and discomfort through me. I didn't know how to let anyone see the mess inside, least of all Jake. But he was still waiting, giving me space. That was always his way. After a moment, I tried for a joke. You really picked the perfect time to barge in, you know. Oscar-worthy timing. His cheeks colored, and a rueful smile tugged at his mouth. I swear, I thought you were still asleep. I needed my razor. Guess I, got more than I bargained for. I snorted, the tension cracking just enough for a sliver of sunlight to get in. It felt good to laugh, even if it was only for a second. Sorry for seeing you like that, Jake said, suddenly earnest. Not just the, bathroom thing. I mean, seeing you upset. I hate it. Makes me want to, I don't know, fix stuff. I stared at him, surprised by the admission. Jake didn't do feelings, not out loud. We were always the type to joke, to brush it off, to move on. But today, the old rules didn't seem to apply. I wrapped my hands around my mug, searching for words. It's not really fixable, I guess. Some days just suck. Jake nodded, gaze steady. Yeah, I know the feeling. We let that settle, the silence filling with things unsaid. I wanted to ask about his own mess. Jake was always the strong one, the rock. But lately he'd been quieter, staying up late, leaving the house early, phone calls that ended quickly when I walked in. Now, in the quiet, I saw how tired he looked. The shadows under his eyes weren't just from bad sleep. "What about you?" I asked, before I could chicken out. "You okay?" He looked at me, startled, like nobody had ever asked before. "Me?" He shrugged, then sighed. "Lost my job last week." The words fell heavy between us. "What?" "Jake, why didn't you say anything?" He avoided my eyes. "Didn't want you to worry. Figured I'd line something else up before you noticed." I felt a strange mix of relief and guilt. All this time, I'd been drowning in my own stuff, never noticing he was fighting his own battles. "Jake," I started, but he shook his head. "It's not a big deal," he said quickly, too quickly. "It's just embarrassing, I guess. I'm supposed to be the one who has it together, right?" His attempt at a joke fell flat, and he rubbed at his jaw, looking suddenly much younger. I reached across the table and poked his arm. "You don't always have to be the strong one, you know." He glanced up, surprised, and for a moment, we just sat there. Two siblings, equally lost. Then Jake chuckled, low and rueful. "Guess we're both a mess, huh?" I nodded, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the ache in my chest loosened. "Yeah," I said, managing a smile. "But, at least we're a mess together?" He grinned. "Cheers to that." We clinked mugs, the sound tiny but somehow grounding. Outside, a bird started singing, oblivious to everything going on inside the house. For a while, we sipped our tea in companionable silence. The awkwardness faded, replaced by a fragile kind of peace. After breakfast, Jake started cleaning up, stacking dishes with exaggerated care. I watched him for a moment, then gathered my courage. "Hey, do you want to do something later? Get out of the house?" He blinked, surprised. "Yeah, sure, like what?" I shrugged, feeling shy again. "Doesn't matter, just something. I don't want to be alone today." His face softened and he nodded. "Okay, we'll do something. Your pick." It wasn't a big promise, but it was enough. I left the kitchen feeling lighter, the bathroom incident already fading into the background. Not because it wasn't awkward, but because it was real. Proof that even when everything fell apart, we could find our way back. Upstairs, I found myself smiling as I brushed my hair, really looking at my own reflection for the first time all day. The girl in the mirror didn't look perfect, but she didn't look broken either. Maybe Jake was right. Maybe none of us really has it together. Maybe the best we can do is show up for each other, awkwardness and all. That night, as we sat on the porch steps watching the sky turn navy blue, Jake nudged me with his shoulder. "Hey, Ella?" "Yeah?" He grinned, mischief dancing in his eyes. "I'm locking the bathroom door from now on. For both our sakes." I laughed, and for the first time in ages, it felt easy, like we were exactly where we were supposed to be. They say if you want to know who you really are, let yourself be caught off guard, see what spills out when the mask slips. If that's true, then yesterday's bathroom fiasco was just the start of my mask slipping, piece by shaky piece. The day after Jake and I sat together on the porch, I woke up to sunlight slanting through my window and the unmistakable clatter of breakfast prep from the kitchen. Jake was never an early riser, unless he was anxious or excited or trying too hard to be normal. Today, I guessed, it was a bit of all three. I wrapped myself in my thickest sweater, padding down the stairs, nerves jangling in my stomach. I paused at the bottom, watching him at the stove, spatula in hand, humming tunelessly to some song only he knew. He looked so ordinary, so everyday, like nothing between us had changed. "Morning," I called, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. Jake turned, brightening. "Hey, you're up. I made pancakes, the kind with chocolate chips." He slid a plate toward me, already dripping with maple syrup, and flashed that sideways grin that used to drive me crazy when we were kids, when he'd sneak the last pancake just to see if I'd notice. I took my seat, feeling the warmth of the kitchen sink into my bones. For a while, we just ate, comfortable in the familiar rhythm, passing the syrup, making dumb jokes about whose pancake was the ugliest, pretending we weren't both tiptoeing around yesterday's awkwardness. But the thing about pretending is, it never lasts. Halfway through breakfast, Jake set his fork down and looked at me, a look that said I'm about to do something brave. "Hey, Elle?" "Yeah?" I was thinking, maybe we could get out of here today. Take a drive? Like we used to. My heart stuttered, then steadied. It had been a long time since we'd done anything just the two of us, since before the job changes and the new apartment and the weight of adulthood settled on our shoulders. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I'd like that." We cleaned up in record time, Jake stuffing the last pancake in his mouth as I grabbed my coat. The air outside was crisp, the kind that makes you want to run for no reason, just to feel alive. Jake led the way to his car, a battered hatchback that always smelled faintly of pine air freshener and muddy shoes. As we drove, the silence wasn't uncomfortable, but charged, like the world was waiting for us to say something important. Jake took us to the river, the same spot we used to sneak off to after our parents' wedding, when neither of us knew what to do with the word family. He parked beneath a willow tree, turned off the engine, and let out a breath that seemed to have been living in his chest for days. I waited, letting the soft rush of water fill the space between us. "It's weird, isn't it?" Jake said finally. "How everything changes, but this place always looks the same." I nodded, twisting a blade of grass between my fingers. "Sometimes I wish we could just stay here. Just pause everything for a while." He glanced at me, something sad and understanding in his eyes. "Me too, Elle, me too." For a few minutes, we just sat there, listening to the river, the hush of wind in the trees, the world holding its breath. Then quietly, Jake said, "You know, I used to hate calling you my stepsister. Not because of you, just because it sounded like a wall, like we were always supposed to be almost family." His words surprised me, sharp, honest, the kind that make your chest ache. "I always felt that way too," I admitted, my voice small. Like I was a guest in my own life. Like I was supposed to be grateful for being included, but never fully in. Jake shook his head, jaw clenched. "That's not how I see you. Not now. Not ever." His words sat with me, heavy and bright. I looked out at the river, remembering all those afternoons when we were younger, how I'd watched Jake skip rocks, daring myself to ask if I could try. Always too shy, too afraid of breaking whatever fragile piece we had. Today, the water looked inviting, cool, endless, a place where secrets could float away. Without thinking, I blurted, "Why did you really lose your job, Jake?" He winced, caught off guard. "I messed up, made a bad call at work, and then I just couldn't fix it. They said it wasn't personal, but it sure felt like it." He paused, glancing down at his hands. "I wanted to tell you, but you didn't want me to think less of you." I finished softly. He nodded, shoulders tense. "I get it," I said. "I hide stuff too. I called in sick yesterday because I couldn't face going in. I'm falling behind, Jake. I feel like I'm always about to let everyone down." He looked at me, really looked, seeing not just the mess, but the whole story. "We're both good at pretending," he said, almost smiling. Something inside me snapped, in the best way. The words poured out, fear, frustration, all the little failures I'd been carrying alone. "I hate pretending I'm okay," I said, voice trembling. "I hate that I'm supposed to be the strong one, or the nice one, or whatever label everyone wants to slap on me. I don't know who I'm supposed to be anymore." Jake listened, silent and steady. When I ran out of words, he didn't try to fix it. He just scooted closer on the grass, bumping my shoulder with his. Do you remember the night after our parents' wedding? He asked, voice low. We both hid under that stupid dining table and ate a whole pack of Oreos. I laughed, despite myself. Yeah, I got crumbs in my hair for a week. He grinned. You told me you wished you could be invisible sometimes. I nodded, remembering the ache of that night, wanting so badly to belong, to matter, to not always be the afterthought. Jake looked at me, eyes serious. You're not invisible to me, Elle. Not ever. For a long moment, I let myself believe him. Let myself feel seen, maybe for the first time in ages. The sun broke through the clouds, casting ripples of gold across the river. I breathed in, letting the cold air fill my lungs, and for once, I didn't want to run. I'm sorry for shutting you out, I said, voice quiet. I didn't mean to. He shrugged, the movement gentle. It's okay. I do it too. We sat together in the hush, letting the old hurts drift away with the current. When we finally stood to leave, I felt lighter, like something inside me had shifted. Back in the car, Jake started the engine, glancing at me with a lopsided smile. Next time you need to hide, just let me know. I'll bring the Oreos. I snorted. Deal, but only if you promise to knock first. He grinned, and for the first time in a long while, everything felt right. Not perfect, but real. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the river, the way it just keeps moving, never apologizing for changing, never pretending to be anything, but itself. Maybe I could learn something from that. Maybe, for the first time, I was ready to stop hiding. Have you ever noticed how the air in a house can change overnight? Ours did. It shifted, almost imperceptibly, as if all the words Jake and I had finally spoken had stirred up something heavier. A kind of hope, but also a raw uncertainty about what comes next. You think after a breakthrough that everything will be easier. You think you've said the big things, so now you get to rest. But the truth is, real change leaves you exposed, fragile as a wound learning to close. That morning, I woke to rain tapping at my window. The world was silver and muted. I lay still for a long time, listening to the soft patter, reluctant to get up. I could hear Jake in the kitchen, his footsteps slower than usual. No radio, no humming. It should have felt peaceful, but instead my nerves prickled, an echo of something unsettled. I finally made my way downstairs, my thoughts loud in the hush of the house. Jake glanced up from his coffee, managing a tired smile. Morning, he said, voice too normal. Hey, I replied, hugging myself against a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. We hovered around each other, careful, as if we didn't want to break the spell of the previous day. He offered me the coffee pot, and I poured myself a cup, grateful for something warm to hold. For a while, we just sipped in silence, letting the storm outside fill the space. But I could feel a question hanging between us. Something neither of us wanted to touch. Eventually, Jake cleared his throat, breaking the spell. Got any plans today? He asked too casually. I shook my head. Not really. You? He shrugged, gaze fixed on the rain-smeared window. Might look at some job listings. The words landed with a thud. I wanted to encourage him, to say something hopeful, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I blurted, Do you ever feel like everything is waiting for you to make the next move? Like the whole house just holds its breath? Jake's smile was thin. Yeah, every day lately. We shared a wry glance, and something like relief shimmered in the air. Maybe we were both bracing for something neither of us could name. I retreated to my room, meaning to be productive, but ended up pacing. The weight of everything unsaid made the walls feel closer. My phone buzzed, startling me. A name flashed on the screen. Dad. I hesitated. It had been weeks since we'd talked, and even then our conversations were clipped, full of things neither of us wanted to acknowledge. I answered anyway, my voice small. Hi, Dad. There was a pause, static and distance. Ella. Just checking. In. Haven't heard from you? I braced myself. Yeah, sorry. Been busy. Another silence. How's everything with your mother? With Jake? I almost laughed at the careful way he said Jake's name, like it might explode if he wasn't gentle enough. We're fine, I replied, even though it wasn't the whole truth. Or maybe it was. Maybe fine was all we could be. He sighed, a sound I recognized from my childhood, tired, a little defeated. You know, you can always come stay with me for a while, if you need a break. Something sharp twisted in my chest. Why did every offer of help feel like a reminder that I didn't quite fit anywhere? Not with him, not entirely here either. I'm okay, I said, but my voice wobbled. Dad caught it. Ella, you don't sound okay. There it was, the moment I always dreaded. I wanted to say, I'm happy, I belong. But the words wouldn't. Come. I'm just tired, Dad. That's all. Another pause. Well, the offer stands. Don't forget it. We hung up with awkward goodbyes, both of us more alone than before. I stood by my window, watching rain carve rivers down the glass. Why did it feel like I was always choosing? Like every answer was a betrayal of someone, somewhere. A soft knock at my door pulled me from my thoughts. Jake peeked in, eyebrows raised. You okay? I tried to smile. Yeah, just my dad. He called. Jake stepped inside, hands in his pockets, looking uncertain. He wants me to stay with him, I admitted. He always asks. But I don't know what I want. Jake leaned against the wall, his silence saying more than any advice. Finally, he said, You don't have to know. Not right away. His quiet was a comfort. But it was also a challenge, because silence can be space, or it can be a wall. Today, I felt both. We ended up in the living room, each on our own end of the couch. Jake picked up a book but didn't read it. I watched the rain, counting heartbeats. Out of nowhere, Jake spoke, voice low. Do you ever wish things had been different? The question startled me. I wanted to say no, to be loyal, to pretend, but I was too tired. Sometimes, I whispered, but I don't know what different would even look like. I don't know if it'd be better or just lonely in a new way. Jake's eyes found mine, serious. I get scared you'll leave. Go to your dad's. Or somewhere else. The confession hung between us, raw and honest. I had no idea he felt that way. I swallowed, throat tight. I don't want to leave, I said. But I don't always feel like I'm home either. It's not about you. It's just me. Jake nodded. For a while, the only sound was the rain, relentless and steady. A flash of lightning brightened the room for a heartbeat. It was the kind of moment you'd expect a grand gesture, some sweeping words to tie it all together. But life doesn't work like that. Instead, Jake stood, left the room, and returned with 2 mugs of tea. He handed me one without a word, then sat beside me, close enough that our knees almost touched. We drank in silence, letting the storm rage outside. After a while, he said, You know, you don't have to pick a side. You're allowed to belong, wherever you want, even if it's nowhere for a while. It wasn't a solution, but it was something, an offering, a rope across the gap. I rested my head on the back of the couch, letting my eyes close. For once, silence wasn't heavy. It was just there. The storm faded. The world softened. Jake put on a movie, something silly, a favorite from when we were kids. We watched, neither really paying attention, but not wanting to be alone. The credits rolled. I felt the tightness in my chest loosen just a little. Thanks, I said softly. Jake glanced at me, a smile in his eyes. Anytime, Elle. Later, as I lay in bed, I replayed the day in my head. The rain, the phone call. The way silence could mean everything or nothing. Maybe, I thought, this is what it means to grow. Learning to let the silence say what words can't. and knowing deep down that you don't have to be ready. You just have to be here. If you've ever waited for your life to click into place, you'll know it doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, in fits and starts, between storms, in the small choices you make, and in the moments you decide to stay instead of running away. That was the lesson I learned in our house, on the edge of town, with the rain finally gone and everything outside washed clean. The next morning, the sun streamed in like an apology for all the gray days. Before, I woke up restless, a little lighter but still bracing for the next wave. Downstairs, Jake was already up, sorting through a stack of mail at the kitchen table. His hair stuck up at odd angles and he looked like he hadn't slept much. "Hey," I said, voice catching in the quiet. He looked up and grinned, pushing a mug toward me. "Morning. I made coffee and pancakes again. No chocolate chips left, though, sorry." I smiled, easing into the kitchen, letting the normalcy settle on my shoulders like a blanket. "Regular pancakes are perfect," I said. "Normal is good." We ate in companionable silence, passing syrup back and forth. Jake tapped a letter on the table, his brow furrowing. "It's from the landlord," he said. "I guess the lease is up next month." The words hit like a chill. Change, always waiting in the wings. "What does that mean?" I asked, though I already knew. Jake shrugged. "It means we've got choices. We can renew or go our own ways." The suggestion hovered, uncertain and heavy. I wasn't ready to face it, not after everything we'd just learned about holding on. "Do you want to stay?" I asked. Quietly. Jake didn't answer right away. He traced the rim of his mug, lost in thought. "I don't know," he admitted. "I feel like we've been in limbo, like we're waiting for someone else to decide." I understood. The future always felt like someone else's problem, but today, it felt like it belonged to us. After breakfast, we drifted through the house, each in our own orbit. I cleaned up the kitchen, Jake paced with his phone, calling about jobs, each call ending with a quiet sigh. At noon, he found me in the living room, fiddling with the old stereo. "Hey, Elle," he said. "You want to go out for a bit? Clear our heads?" I nodded, eager for anything that wasn't waiting or worrying. We drove with the windows down, letting the air sweep away old doubts. Jake took us to the city park where the grass glistened from the night's rain, and the sky was bluer than it had been in weeks. We walked the paths in easy silence, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was full of everything we'd finally said, and everything we still might. At the playground, we sat on the swings like we used to, legs dangling, toes barely scraping the ground. Jake rocked back and forth, his expression thoughtful. "I keep thinking about what you said yesterday," he began. "About not really knowing where you belong." I nodded, twisting the swing's chain in my hands. He glanced over. "I don't have all the answers, Elle. But if you want to stay here, if you want this to be home, I do too. We could make that choice. For real. Together." My throat tightened, but in a good way, a knot coming loose. "I want that," I said, voice barely above a whisper. "I want to stop running. I want to belong somewhere, even if it's messy, even if we don't have it all figured out." Jake smiled, a little lopsided but real. "That's good enough for me." We stayed at the park until clouds rolled in, threatening more rain. Back at the house, Jake made calls, one after another, hopeful and determined. I heard him laughing with someone, his old confidence flickering back to life. I busied myself with old photos, sorting them into albums, memories of blended holidays, awkward family dinners, Jake's lopsided birthday cakes. Each picture told a story not of perfection, but of persistence. As afternoon faded to evening, I felt a sense of urgency build, like the whole house was waiting, breathless, for a decision. I found Jake in the kitchen, phone in hand, a hopeful gleam in his eyes. "Got a callback," he said, grinning. "Interview tomorrow, not a sure thing, but it's something," I whooped, genuine relief breaking through the tension. See? Things are turning around. He looked at me serious. I couldn't have done it without you, you know. I shrugged, suddenly shy. We're in this together. That's what family does, right? Jake nodded, quiet for a moment. Then he reached into a drawer and pulled out the lease renewal form. You want to do this? Sign on for another year? I took the pen he offered, heart thumping. With one shaky breath, I scrawled my name beside his. It wasn't just a signature. It was a choice, a declaration that we weren't just surviving. We were building something. Messy, uncertain, but ours. That night, we threw together a dinner. Pasta, garlic bread, whatever was left in the fridge. We invited our parents, a few friends, everyone who'd ever wandered through this house and left a piece of themselves behind. The place buzzed with laughter and clinking dishes, stories spilling from room to room. Our parents hovered at the edge, uncertain but hopeful, watching Jake and me move through the chaos with an ease that surprised even us. At the end of the night, after everyone had gone, I stood in the quiet kitchen, staring at the empty plates and half-finished conversations. Jake came up beside me, leaning against the counter. Crazy night, huh? I nodded, wiping a spot from the table. Do you remember the first night we all lived here? I asked. How awkward it was. I couldn't sleep, and you stayed up playing video games to drown out the silence. He laughed, shaking his head. Yeah, I remember thinking it would never feel like home, like we'd always be in between. I looked at him, the truth clear as day. But now it does. Now it's ours. Jake grinned, and for a moment, we just stood there, two step-siblings, no longer waiting for permission to belong. As midnight crept in, I wandered upstairs, stopping outside the bathroom. I ran my hand over the doorknob, remembering how it all began. One awkward moment, a door swinging open, secrets spilling out. I opened the door, stepped inside, and caught my reflection in the mirror. I wasn't the same girl who hid here, afraid and small. I was someone who chose to stay, someone who belonged, even in the mess. Jake knocked lightly, poking his head in with a sheepish smile. You okay? I laughed, the sound bright and sure. I'm more than okay, I'm ready. He nodded, understanding more than words could say. As I turned out the light, a shiver of possibility ran through me. Because being ready wasn't about having it all figured out. It was about showing up, even when you're scared. It was about choosing family, day after day, door after door. And in that moment, I knew we could face whatever came next. Together. End.